Hey everybody, welcome back. Steve from the Pinball Room once again. Finally get my next video out. Today is going to be building upon what we did last time. We kind of hinted at what could go on in the last video talking about keyboard controls in a way to be able to go through and kind of virtually play your machine and collaborate on it remotely and do things when you're not connected to the physical machine. Well, that's just kind of the very, very early precursor. The other tool we're going to talk about today called the Mission Pinball Framework, or MPF Monitor. This is a really cool tool. I'm just starting to get into it, so we're going to figure it out together. But from what I've heard and from a little bit I've seen so far, basically like the keyboard controls can only do so much on their own. What you really need is this tool, the MPF Monitor, which is going to leverage all those keyboard controls we set up before, and I still need to set up a few more than what I have. We'll do that probably part of this video also. But once you get all those keyboard controls hooked up, it's going to allow you to do a virtual, really a virtual game of your pinball machine. Now it's not a full physics simulation engine. It's not like virtual pinball, and so it's not in 3D. And it doesn't have all the physics, right? But as you'll see, it's going to go through and take a picture of our playfield. We're still going to go through and lay out all the different devices and switches on that, and we'll be able to go through and simulate the hits and the shots. You can watch your light shows. You can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. I'm just going to be scratching the surface of it, but we'll keep coming back, and I'll be showing you more and more as I start using it more to test out my game modes and to verify that logic's working the way I want it to, etc. Okay, all right. Enough of that. Let's just jump right into it, okay? So I'm going to go through and we'll turn on my screen share. All right, and first thing we need to do, if you haven't already, you'll need to go through and install MPF Monitor. There are instructions inside the documentation that MPF has, Mission Pinball Framework. It's a great documentation. I just went through it myself the other day, worked with the guy, Brian Madden, who's the head of, or the guy running all the documentation, the head of documentation. I don't know what his title is. Anyway, he works for FAST, but he's very much involved. He's one of the original creators. I think the original creator of MPF. Anyways, we worked together, cleaned up a few of the typos, clarified a couple of things that didn't make sense to me, and so it should make even more sense for you now as you run through the instructions. That's the joy of this community. It's very active, it's very alive, and things are constantly improving. So even though it's open source, don't hold back. Jump on in. I know I'm sometimes worried about open source too, but this has been a great set of tools. All right, so as you'll see here, I've got two different terminal windows open. All right, one, this top one here, is going to be to go through and get MPF running. I'm going to use a capital X this time instead of a lowercase x to be able to use the smart virtual platform. It'll be my very first time running that, versus the lowercase x was just kind of the regular virtual platform. I don't even remember exactly the differences other than the smart one is what everybody recommends, and it's supposed to be able to do a lot more, specifically in conjunction with the MPF Monitor, I believe, than the normal virtual platform. So we're going to do a capital X. We're going to get that one started, and then that's going to start MPF. We'll get it going. We'll see our splash screen of images. Bingo. There's our display. Put that over to the side. Now in this window over here, once you've installed MPF Monitor, you're just going to go through and you're going to launch it by calling it MPF Monitor. Now I'm doing it in a separate terminal window, so when it comes up, it'll have its own set of windows as well. And it's going to have multiple windows, as you'll see. All right, that's going to start up. I've got things going. Let me get all the different windows active that I want. And I need to come back through and find my other Python window. Bingo. All right. So a lot of things just popped up. Don't let it overwhelm you. In fact, this is one of the things I want to talk about. When I very first ran MPF, the only screen that popped up was the inspector and I don't remember what else. One other one. I think it was devices. Inspector and devices. These were the only two windows that popped up for me. And I was like, where's all the rest of the windows? I don't even know how to turn them on. So if you go inside this main first inspector window, right, I'll maximize it for a second, right? Looks kind of ugly, but this one, right, this is the one I'm talking about. If you come inside here, the inspector window, right, and I'm just going to move it down here. Go to, this is a little toggle, devices and monitor. It might look a little bit different if you're like on a Windows machine versus mine, but click on monitor, and then these all started out basically unchecked. This is what I would. I had inspector and machine variables. These are the two I have. All right. What you want to do is you want to go through and turn on the playfield window. Okay, and let's stop there. This has an image, a top-down image of my playfield. How to get that to work inside MPF Monitor? Well, clearly I took a picture. I already grabbed a screenshot from one of my overhead videos I had. I saved it as a JPEG file. You name it playfield.jpg. Okay, and then the other thing you need to do, let me bring this up real fast, is you go inside your MPF directory, okay, and go inside your machine folder. Remember, mine's called LZ. And then you need to add a folder called Monitor. And inside that folder, you're going to drop a file called playfield.jpg. Okay? Now this monitor.yaml file, it will get automatically created by MPF Monitor once you first run it. So don't worry about that. It'll be, you create an empty folder called Monitor inside your game folder. You put your Playfield JPEG image inside here, and then it'll work. When you start up MPF Monitor, this Playfield area will have the image, right? So we're going to turn that screen on. We're going to turn on device window. It's another really important one. This goes through, as you can guess, and it shows all the different devices that you have defined through your config file for your machine. I don't have a whole lot yet. I've got a few auto fires, slingshots, pop bumpers. I got some ball devices, my trough, my stairs. I'm still working on those, right? Single Playfield. Anyway, drop targets, okay, drop target banks, switches, my stepper motors in here, a couple of shots I've defined. The main thing is going to be the switches. We're going to go through and be using these switches and also like drop targets, right? We'll come back to that. Okay, so you want to turn on the devices one. For right now, for today, really that's pretty much what we're going to be messing with. And then let's go through and let's turn on the event window and the mode window. And these are pretty much self-explanatory. This window over here with the events, and you should be able to resize this, but for some reason for me it keeps resizing itself back down this column. The columns are resizable. This one I can't get to stick right now. I did a minute ago. But anyway, it might be a little bit finicky. But regardless, the events window, this is where it goes through and shows all the events as they are being called up and happening inside your game. All right? So my slideshow is going on right now. This is a track mode, right? So I've got last game comes up here, right? And it matches what you see on the screen. Led Zeppelin Pinball is my awesome slide. Press start, that slide's now active. Last game is now active. So it keeps showing you the events as they're happening. As things are happening with your game, it's going to list them. So that can be helpful to go through, and maybe you are going to click some buttons and try a mode, and you think these certain events are going to happen. You'll push the button, and you're like, wait, nothing happened. You can scroll back through your list of events and say, oh, that event never fired. This is the last event that fired. Oh, there must be some sort of a glitch in my code at the ending of that mode, starting the next one. It can help you kind of narrow down what things that are going on. Okay, I'm still brand new to it. That's the most I can say about that, but it should be helpful to us. Okay, running modes. This also shows you all the different modes that are running. For me right now, I literally only have an attract mode going. I haven't started the game. There's no base mode. Once we hit start, we should see the base mode start in here. If we start our multi-ball, that multi-ball mode would start in here. And remember, with MPF, you can have a lot of modes going on at the same time. You often will, for all the different little things going on. It's not just game modes, but anything else you're trying to keep track of, right? Ball locks and progression of things that might be kind of under the hood for the player until they kind of finish things, right? But you'll see all the modes happening here. It could be a mode showing, the display score going on, animations that are happening, call-outs that are being played, like you name it. All those modes will show up down here, and will show their priorities. You can see which ones. Oh, it's running, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, it's a lower priority, so maybe something else is taking over. If it's a slideshow, maybe it's being hidden. Anyway, that'll help us debug those type of things, all right? All right, so let's kind of go back to like what was like the really most cool whiz-bang thing about this, right? At least for me. It was this picture of the playfield, right? Like, what are we going to do with that, Steve? That seems really, really cool. Hopefully, visually, it's more interesting than these other windows. Well, so this is what got me excited about this whole MPF monitor tool. The concept is, let me switch this back here from monitor to devices over here, okay? And we're going to go to this devices tab up here. Now I got through, you can see both of these. And let's start with our switches. We're going to open our switches. We're going to go through and we're going to find, first off, we're going to find the start switch, all right? Now, I want to go through over here in Inspector. I'm going to hit Toggle Device Inspector. When this is all lit up blue, meaning it's active, I know, not the most intuitive UI, but hey, it's all right. When that is active and turned on, I can mess with this switch. It's not going to actually do anything with my actual game. Aha, spoiler alert. What you can do with these switches, you put them on your playfield. Boom, now I've got a start button right here, right? And if I click the start button, Toggle Inspector, I don't want it to be doing anything. I can touch it and I can do things with it, and it's not going to actually start my game, all right? But it is the start button. And so I don't want the start button right here in the middle of my playfield, right? I want this to be kind of recreating the way my playfield actually is. Well, the start button's not there. It's on the front of the cabinet. So I'm just going to move it over here out of the way in this apron spot, okay? I have nothing in that apron. That's where my start button's going to be, okay? Now, let's go through and let's pull in the pop bumper switch. So I'm just going to click and drag and put it on top of my pop bumper. And now that square is right here on top of my pop bumper. Okay, yay. Now let's grab another one. Let's do my right slingshot. I'm going to put that over here. Okay, my left slingshot, I'll click and drag that one in. All right, what else we got here? I've got right stand-up 1, 2, and 3. Oh, over here, these stand-ups over here. Let's do stand-up number 1. And you know what else? That's kind of big, isn't it? These aren't really going to fit if I put them all in here. You can see these aren't going to fit. See, they're going to start stacking on top of each other. It's just going to be ugly. Everything's all crowded. Well, we come back over here to Inspector. We make sure this blue thing is toggled for Inspector. Right underneath it, in the small print, it says the name of the switch. Okay? And then it says size. Look at the size thing. I can change the size of that representation of my playfield to scale it to fit within my image. Okay, so make that a little bit smaller. Also, device shape. The default is a square, but I can also make it a triangle or a circle. I'm going to make all my stand-ups circles because stand-ups are kind of circular squares. You know, I'm going to make it a circle. All right, then I'm going to click my next one. It's hard to see on the picture over here what you have selected, but it updates over here inside the inspector, right? I went from number 1 or number 3 to number 2 being selected. I'm going to change this to a circle. I'm also going to make it, what size is the other one? 0.05. Right here you can type in the specific number you want also. So I'm going to make this one also 0.05. Lower it down, all right? And then this final one, stand-up number 1, I'll make it a circle. 0.5 also. And then I can kind of click and move it around until it's actually on top of this target. So there. So I've got the 3 targets roughly where they actually belong on my playfield. All right? Yay! How about the slingshots? We can do the same thing. Slingshots, let's make this, I don't know, a rectangle because it's a switch. We'll put it here. The other thing you can do here, look at this rotation dial. I can rotate it. Do you see that moving? And so I can kind of line that up. I'll just line it up to like the front of the slingshot right there. Yay! And we'll do that with the other one. We'll say it's a rectangle, and I will rotate it kind of the other direction. Bingo. Pop bumper. Square is fine. It's just a little big. Well, maybe let's make it a big circle. Why not? We can make it a bigger circle. I would just fill the pop bumper. There, that's the pop bumper. Why not? Okay, so I won't bore you and make you watch me put all these in, but you can do switches. You can also, look at this, drop targets. Inline 1, okay? That guy goes right here. And I'll come back over here and I'll make him a rectangle. Oop, I had the wrong one selected. Circle. I'm still on pop bumper. Let me click on him. Inline drop 1, rectangle. And again, I can rotate that to match about where it actually is, and I can shrink it down a little bit. We'll also do 0.5. So it's just going to blend in with the actual picture of my drop target is, and that's kind of cool. So we drop it in, click it again to select it, is what I'm learning. Hit rectangle, and then rotate. Otherwise, the other one's still actively selected, even if you drag one in. So see, I'm going to drag in drop target 3 is there, but this hasn't updated over here in the inspector. So I need to click it again to select it. And now I can mess with it, make it a rectangle, make it a little bit smaller, and I can rotate it to make it fit at its slightly curved angle. Bingo, look at that. Right there where they all actually belong, or actually exist in my playfield. Beautiful. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go through and take a minute. I'm going to add in all my switches and all my drop targets and all my stand-ups and everything in here that I've set up, and I'll be right back. Alright, so there we go, we're back. I got pretty much everything added in now. Alright, I've got my ball trough. Here's my start switch. 1, 2 is showing 3 balls in my trough. I guess those are automatically triggered, I'm not sure. And then ball 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 balls in my trough potentially. Gonna wrap those around. This is the start button over here. Got my pop bumper, those 3 stand-ups you saw. I've got a little thing here, this switch for this return shot that goes behind this flipper. I've got my slingshots, I've got my out lanes and my in lane switches. I've got this floor bank set of drop targets here underneath the left ramp with the 4 stand targets behind it. I've got the ramp showing the track shots going into the left ramp. I've got these inline drop targets with a switch behind it, the optical switch. I've got my left orbit switch. I've got the horseshoe orbit shots here, these optical switches. The drop target at the base of my stairs. And so you get this little mouse over also, right? That's my left center stand-up switch, my right center stand-up switch, bottom stairs opto, top stairs opto. We've got these drop targets and these stand-up targets all the way back here. I've got my ramp left exit switch, my ramp right exit switch, my right ramp entry switch, my right orbit switch. So I got pretty much all my switches that I feel like I need on my playfield. Here's my captive ball switch with the hermit shot. Here is the captive ball stand-up here in the back. I have to get hit. My spinner. It's got everything. All right, we're good. All right, so I was going through and wrapping up the last section, and as I mentioned earlier in that little overlay, the screen recording software I'm using with MPF running a couple terminals and everything apparently just became too much for my laptop, and so it just was freezing. You couldn't see anything I was doing. I kept talking, and there was like nothing going on the screen. So we're going to go through and kind of like recreate all that. All right, so hopefully everything will continue to run smoothly enough for you. But basically, the last couple of things I wanted to talk about were a couple of the other uses. So you've seen me go through and like we outlined, we added in a bunch of switches and devices into the playfield. So I think it's pretty clear how you can go through, you can position them and recreate whatever pinball machine you're working on, right? And then what you can do is you can go through and you can click on those items on screen. So let me go through and show you that a little bit. You can start to interact with it. So if we're over here in the inspector, again, as long as this thing is blue or it's selected, I can click on switches. It allows me to edit them, change their shapes, etc. And nothing actually happens with the game. But if I toggle this off, now if I left click on a switch, it'll be just like the keyboard emulation where we click it once and it turns active and inactive, active, inactive. And if you right click on a switch, it'll toggle it to an active position or back to an off position. So different switches you can interact with that way to simulate them being hit in your actual game, right? And so the next section is really what's going to go through and talk about. It's going to kind of demo and simulate a little bit how that happens. So I'll do that for you here in just a second. The last thing really though that you can also use this for before we jump into that is you can also go through and you can create items that represent your LEDs. So I've got my switches and ball devices up here, but you can also, once you have that configured, I haven't gotten to that point yet, but you can go through and you can configure all your LEDs in here, all your inserts, all your global illumination, any other lights you have, right? As you can have a section in here, just like we have for switches, that's for your lights. And you can click and drag each individual light, and let's say we have one over here, right? And you can put them in to your area. Let me make sure I have my toggle on. And you come over here, and same thing. I can go through and I can make these like a circle. I can change their size, and I can place them wherever those lights are going to actually be, or if it's a insert, etc. Let me see, like here's like an arrow. Okay, I can say, hey, here is where an insert's going to be to kind of show people that there's this orbit shot over here that might be kind of hard to make or to realize it's there otherwise, right? And so you can go through and place those in, and you'll be able to see all those lights light up. You'll actually be able to see the colors that you have assigned to those LEDs. Like right now, it seems like for all the other items, the switches, there's like black and white and green. Green means it's active. White, I'm pretty sure, means it's like that shot is enabled, but it's not been completed, like for shots versus switches. I'm still figuring that out. But if you go through and put all your lights in here and have your global illumination, you might even want to put a few of those in so you can check, when are my global illumination lights changing color, turning on and off. And you can do that with all of your inserts. And so as you go through and create light shows, which actually is a separate tool that we use to create all of our light shows, that'll be another video, then we'll be able to load up the light shows, go in here, hit a mode, hit a key to enter a mode, right? And then we'll be able to see all the slides and all the light shows. You'll listen to the callouts. Everything that is associated with that mode or that event will then happen inside here, inside our screen. And so you'll be able to see all the lights change color and all their effects. You'll be able to watch all that. Okay, so that's the other kind of last big thing here to do with this, is be able to mess with and verify your lighting shows and that things like that are working the way they should. Let's go ahead though, the last thing here, and let's try, I'll go back here to my inspector. If I turn off the toggle here for device inspector. Again, it's just, you know, the blue's off. Then I can come over here and I can click and I can start my game. If I left click on the start button, boom. Now do you see over here? Hopefully you can still see it. Hopefully my video hasn't frozen. But over here, the game started. Now I got a 0-0 score, player 1, ball 1. And look, this green square has moved out of my trough and is now inside my start lane. And if I toggle that, right click, boom, and send it out. Over here in the events, you can see, you know, the ball count, Playfield, ball count change. Now there's 1 ball. Okay, let's change to 1. The shooter lane now down to 0. So it thinks there's a ball out on the playfield. I can go through and I can make a bunch of shots. I can hit these stand-ups, the hermit ball stand-up, okay? And if I hit the hermit ball stand-up enough times, over here it says hermit shot lit, okay? And now multi-ball, hermit ball, multi-ball, shoot again is ended. So my multi-ball has started. And look at this, the ball's in my trough down here. One's ejected out, it's trying to fire it out. If I clear it out, then the next one will go over there, it'll clear it out. So it's trying to start the multi-ball mode where it's trying to clear out all the balls into the shooter lane from the trough and get them onto the playfield. Over here now my event, playfield, ball count changed. Now we have 3 balls in play on the playfield. Yay, so it thinks I'm inside my multi-ball mode, right? I can go through and I can hit different stand-ups. I can be earning points for this. We see the point displays going up. These other ones here, ramp switches, aren't doing a whole lot, right? But other ones here have got point values associated to these other ones. And so we can see points being scored every time we hit these stand-ups, right? Now, I don't have any other modes figured out outside of that. If I come down here and I say that a ball has gone through, you know, these trough switches and now it's back down here, ball's in play, now it's down to 2. It knows my multi-ball is almost ended. I put another ball down here, oop, ball's in play, down to 1. Look at that, hermit multi-ball ended. Okay, so it's keeping track of all those modes so you can make sure, oh, things are ending the way I want them to, they're starting the way I want them to. And it's way simpler than being on your machine, having to go through and hit all those buttons yourself manually, right? So there you go. That was kind of the last little bit more accelerated, but hey, I'm long-winded, so now you got the shorter version. It's probably even better. But that's what I was trying to show to my video froze. This is just like scratching the surface of what this tool can do. I'm brand new to it, but I already see a lot of potential. I think like I mentioned in my last video, everybody else has come before me who are really serious and have gone through and done a lot of coding on their homebrew pinball machines, made them very fun, like the Fight Club one we talked about, and Spaceballs, and so many other homebrews that are out there. People are taking the time to make their game Nightmare Before Christmas. Another great example, right? I've talked with Mark, and I know that he's gone through and spent so much time inside this monitor tool, inside a Lightshow tool that I think Mark developed himself, we're going to be using. But there's these different tools that work with MPF that make it so much easier for you to go through and do all your coding, be able to verify it, and make sure that things are actually working the way you really want them to. So much faster than trying to mess with it on your physical machine. So anyway, I can't overstate how important these tools are going to be. Like I said, I'm just barely starting to use them, but I already see a lot of advantages. And anyway, there'll be more videos coming as I jump in deeper into my code and start playing around with Lightshows. I'll record all that, of course. I'll put it up. We'll be able to do it together and see how things work. We'll figure it out. And yeah, if you're doing your own project, you'll be able to jump in and use these tools as well. And if not, well, you'll be able to go through and see how I'm using them and see how other people are using them. And hopefully it'll still be enjoyable and interesting and help you understand kind of the different ways people go about coding their game. This is a whole new area for me, the whole coding and software side of it. I'm having to figure all this out, but it's been a lot of fun. So, and again, there's so many people out there willing to help you with all of this. I couldn't imagine trying to do it all on my own. All right, everybody, that really is what I have for today. It's an intro to the MPF Monitor. Shows you all the basics of how it works. I think it's a slick tool. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, happy pinballing. And if you haven't started your own pinball project, do it. There's never been a better time. There's so many tools out there that makes it easy and approachable for everybody to go through and do it. Or come along for the ride and just watch myself and everybody else out there who are sharing their builds. Love having you guys along. So many great comments that are coming through, great suggestions, great feedback. I've got a few people that are have been sending me examples of different like artwork ideas for the back box and for the playfield. A lot of fun ideas getting kicked around. I was just talking today with a buddy of mine who's an artist who's big into pinball also, and we're going to meet here in a couple of weeks. Once I get all my final insert positions laid out on the playfield, I know where those inserts are going to be. We're going to kind of sit down and brainstorm and see what ideas he has for some playfield art. I'm probably going to commission that from him. I'm not really an artist or an illustrator. I can do some things. I think I can handle the cabinet artwork, but definitely not the playfield artwork. I want that to just really look professional, and that's going to be beyond me. So anyway, lots more fun stuff to come. Again, thanks for hanging around. Huge shout out to all the Patreon subscribers that have been jumping in, following along. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Yeah, more stuff coming out, some surprises for you guys. Some things are going to be coming out to you guys here soon. So joining, jumping in, and being an early supporter. So thank you so much. And yeah, well, you'll see more of that in Patreon, where we've got our own chats and discussions going on, guys. So all right, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.